Madam Chairman and members of the committee, it's my pleasure today to introduce SCR116, which is a request to the Department of Education to increase the amount of studies that we have in the school system for the study of Western civilization. Now, to a lot of people, history is pretty much a dry, sterile topic, and I've had teachers on both sides, and I really appreciate the teachers that have had the foresight to be able to project history as a living, breathing thing as opposed to just topics out of a workbook or out of a history book. When we look at history, we can look at different topics and look at their evolution, and such topics would be like farming, like the Mormons brought life to the desert by using canal systems to bring water to the farmlands. But when you look back at history, where did they get those concepts from? I've had the privilege of traveling to Europe and have marveled at some of the Roman aqueducts. Some of these brought 44 million gallons of water to Rome every day to help with hygiene, clean water systems, which is an essential culture. The Trevi Fountain is run by fountains or by water from the aqueducts. Some of these aqueducts are 10 miles long, and they have a drop of only 30 feet, so 3 feet per mile drop. You can't use a spirit level, the best spirit level made in America today, and get that kind of slope consistently and measured. You can also look at like the history of warfare. I've had the privilege of walking the battlefields of the Civil War, been to Pearl Harbor, been to New Mexico where the first atomic bomb was tested, and I've been inside the Pentagon. But you have to go back to the medieval castles of Rome and look at the weapon systems that they had. And this is all the development of our civilization as well. I've had the privilege of walking inside Constitution Hall in Philadelphia, seeing the actual Liberty Bell, visited Plymouth Rock, Jamestown, Williamsburg, Mount Vernon, and all the other places in Washington, D.C. I've seen the original Declaration of Independence in the National Archives. But where did we come from? Once again, we have to go back and look at human history and human civilization, not just our own countries. I've been to Rome to see the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, where the Senate debated issues very much like what we're doing here in the Capitol. And you also got to see the catacombs, the temples, the synagogues, the great cathedrals of Rome. And most recently, I've had a chance to travel to Greece and Turkey. In Greece, I've seen the Acropolis in Athens and the Parthenon, and that was the birth of the Greek civilization. And the statuary and the art and the history is just overwhelming. I also had a chance to see Ephesus, which is the largest single best preserved ancient city in the whole world. There are hundreds of acres of mostly restored buildings, temples, common homes. They didn't have just one amphitheater for sports. They also had another amphitheater for cultural events for the theater. So this is art and civilization combined. And then Constantinople, which is now modern-day Istanbul. You can see the glory of the Eastern Roman Empire. The Hagia Sophia was built in the mid-6th century. That's 1,500 years ago. You could take the entire Capitol building here and fit it in the interior of the Hagia Sophia Cathedral. It's just incredible. Underground reservoirs that take up the size of a city block with columns 30 feet tall that are covered on the street and have buildings above them hold 3 million gallons of water. You just never hear about these things unless you study history of civilization. Other topics that are involved also in study of civilization and not just dry history are religion, art, government systems, and yes, even money. What has caused these great civilizations to thrive? What has caused them to fail? It is our duty to teach our students the history of civilization, especially Western civilization. We have a duty to do that, and my hat's off to the educators here who have taught history and civilization. I'd like to close by reading from the Constitution of Idaho. The stability of a Republican form of government depending mainly upon the intelligence of the people, it shall be the duty of the legislature of Idaho to establish and maintain a general, uniform, and thorough system of free public common schools. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson. Welcome.
Thank you. Senator Carlson, District 7. This legislation came about because of the desire to just focus on history. And social studies adoption will take place within the next year, and the Superintendent of Public Instruction is in support of this resolution. And I'll just read one section of the legislation to you. It will promote, we need to promote the importance of history of Western civilization, which Representative Wisniewski
Yes.
has just shared with us, and civics education and responsible citizenship within applicable social studies, government, and U.S. history courses. Such promotion includes, but is not limited to, highlighting the origin of the country and founding principles within American government, including the U.S.Constitution, individual rights, the separation of powers, and federalism, and emphasize the importance of civil discourse and responsible participation in civic life, including voting, volunteering, community service, along with critical skill of thinking independently.